Now let's discuss well control equipment. Very first thing that we will be discussing will be blowout preventer. Types of blowout preventer, as we all know, we can have an annular preventer, ram preventers, rotating heads, and diverters. Now coming to annular preventer can be closed on drill pipe, drill collar, casing pipes, square and hexagonal telly, tapered pipes, tool joints, wire land, and on open hole in case of emergency also. Okay, so any kind of a tubular is present in the well, annular preventer can close the well. Packing element consists of a rounded elastomer reinforced with steel segments that control rubber extension. Okay, so yeah, the packing element will be somewhat like this thing. Okay, it is an elastomer reinforced with steel. So you can see there are steel elements over here. Okay, basically it is an elastomer, but it is reinforced with steel segments. Okay, so that we can control the rubber extension. So this is the bottom part is the rubber extension, and these segments are the steel part. Okay, now the packing element rubber material should be selected based on the mud system used and the temperature it will be extended to. Again, it's a very important point. This is a very important chart. This is a very important table. And if I am using a water-based mud and the range of reservoir temperature is expected to be within minus 30 to 225 degree Fahrenheit, at that time we can go for a natural rubber elastomer. Whereas if we are going for oil-based mud and my temperature lies between the range of 20 to 190 degree Fahrenheit, nitrile rubber should be used. And similarly, if I am going for oil-based mud and minus 30 to 170 degree Fahrenheit is expected, at that time we would be going for a neoprene rubber. Okay. Again, this same table will come again when we will discuss PCP, progressive cavity pump. At that time also, the bottom hole pump assembly that we have, that means in PCP we have a rotor and a starter assembly. At that time also we will discuss this same thing again. Okay. Now coming to ram type preventer, pipe rams. The ram type preventers are designed to seal the annulus by forcing two rams from opposite ends to seal the object in the wellbore, thus closing the annulus. Okay, so over here you can see that. See, this is a beautiful figure which shows that there are two different rams. See, on the left hand side and the right hand side there will be rams. Okay, and once we are activating the close command, at that time, see, the rams from both the direction seals the object in the wellbore. Okay, and the annulus is closed. Okay, this is a very beautiful diagram which represents how this ram works. Okay, now ram type preventers differ from annular preventer each type, and size of ram has a particular function and cannot seal multiple size of object. Example, if a ram preventer with 5-inch pipe ram is used, and at that time a pipe of 5-inch OD can only be closed. Okay, for example, if my ram is having if a ram is capable of closing a 5-inch OD of drill pipe, then that particular ram will be used to close that 5-inch OD pipe only. Okay, that means it cannot be used for different kind of ODs. Only for 5-inch only it is designed. So that's one of the thing. Pipe rams are designed to seal the wellbore around the fixed size of pipe for which it has been designed. This is a very important point. Okay, very important point. Unlike in annular, where we were able to close the well if we are having any sort of tubular, or else even in emergency, if there is no tubular in the wellbore, at that time also by using annular preventer I was able to shut the well. But in this case, if I am going for a pipe ram, then pipe ram is always designed to seal the wellbore of fixed size. Got it? Okay. Now talking about second, which is blind rams. Blind rams are designed to seal the wellbore if there is no pipe in the hole. Okay. Third point, which is variable bore rams. See, variable bore rams are designed to seal several pipe sizes depending on the range of ram. Okay, so this variable bore rams are an improvement over pipe rams. Okay, basically these are pipe rams only, but now this variable bore rams or VBR can be used to seal several pipe sizes. Okay, for example, 3.5 to 5-inch VBR can seal pipes from 3-inch to 3.5 inch to 5-inch. Example, 3.5 inch it can close 4-inch pipe, 4.5 inch, 5-inch pipe. Okay, now coming to fourth point, which is blind shear rams. Blind shear rams are designed to shear the pipe in the well and seal the well simultaneously. Okay, that means it will both shear as well as blind. Okay, you can see in this particular figure. So this is a blind shear ram. Okay, now from both the ends the rams are coming in. Okay, and see, you can see that it is now sheared the pipe. See, you can see the pipe has been sheared on the top end and the bottom end. Okay, so blind shear ram, what it does is that it shears the pipe, and once it gets sheared, then it closes, then it get blind. Okay, then it completely shuts the well. Unlike in pipe ram, it was not shearing the ram. Okay, it was just closing the well, okay, by completely covering the OD of the drill pipe. Okay, but in blind shear ram, you can completely shear the drill pipe and you can shut the well. Okay, and in blind rams, when are blind rams used? Blind ram will be used when I have no drill pipe in the hole. Only at that time only I can go for a blind ram. Okay, and again, annular preventer can be used when there is any sort of drill pipe or any sort of tubular present in the wellbore. At that time we can go for annular preventer. Again, annular preventer, you can see that rubber elements will be there. Okay, and on activating it, the rubber elements will come close to each other and it will close the well. All right. Okay, now coming to BOP stack configuration, this is for 2M configuration. That means for 2000 psi rating of BOP. So you can have here A indicates annular, S indicates drilling spool, R indicates pipe rams. Okay, so for a 2M you can go for either one drilling spool and one annular BOP. So second configuration is you can go for a one drilling spool and two rams. Third assembly is one drilling spool and one annular and one ram. And fourth assembly is you can go for a ram below the drilling spool and a ram above the drilling spool. Okay, so these are the configurations you can have for 2000 working rating pressure of a BOP. Now this is a very important question, this is a gate type question. Okay, the thing is, whenever you are going for a shear ram, okay, whenever I am having a shear ram in my system, at that time it is compulsory to have a pipe ram below. Okay, the reason is, okay, let's say let's assume a case that I have a shear ram. Okay, I have a shear ram and above it I have a pipe ram. Let's assume a case. Okay, let's say this is my drill string. Okay, this is my bit, this is my well bore. Okay, now let's say by any chance, okay, and for my well has taken a kick and I had to activate the BOP and my annular, let's say, didn't work, and I compulsory have to go for some any reason I have to engage my shear ram. Okay, at that time, let's say if I am engaging my shear ram, then what happens is that once I engage the shear ram, I know that my entire drill pipe from this point will be sheared. Okay, and because of shearing, this drill pipe may fall into the well bore. Okay, it may fall into the well bore and this can result to damage of the well bore. Okay, and this damage is a obvious thing. And now if I want to retrieve that particular drill string, then I have to go for fishing job. Okay, so in order to to avoid this particular situation, what I do is that I will always have a pipe ram. I will always have a pipe ram below a shear ram. Okay, see, again let this be the drill pipe. Okay, now let's say in this particular case, if I am engaging my shear ram, okay, let's say if I am engaging my shear ram, what I will do, I will simultaneously engage my pipe ram also. Okay, so let's say if now from this point my drill pipe gets ruptured because of shearing, this pipe ram will hold my entire drill string intact. Okay, that means my pipe ram will not allow the drill string to fall into my well bore. Got it? Okay, so this is a very important point, and this particular question can be asked in gate. Now coming to 3M and 5M. 3M means 3000 psi of working pressure and 5M means 5000 psi of working pressure. Okay, if I am going for those kind of stack configuration, then I can have annular preventer, I can have two ram preventers, and I can have a drill spool. Okay, now another version is I can have a drill spool, below that I can have a ram preventer, above that I can have a ram preventer, and above ram preventer I can have an annular preventer. Now for a configuration of 10M to 15M, so I can have a ram preventer below my drill spool, two ram preventer above my drill spool, and one annular preventer. Now this particular configuration, you can have a drill spool at the bottom, 3 ram preventers and 1 annular BOP. Okay, got it. So you can have a different type of configuration based on the company's SOPs and based on the API specifications. Okay, now this is a schematic for a BOP. Okay, this is a schematic for BOP. Now you can see now. Okay, so let this be the drill floor. This is my drill floor, and this is my annular preventer, blind shear ram, 5-inch pipe ram, drilling spool. Again, I will have a pipe ram below because I have a blind shear ram. That means compulsory I will have a pipe ram below. Okay, and let this be the casing head. Okay, now this side is my kill line. I have this manual valve. I have this HCR valve, which is hydraulically controlled gate valve. This is my kill line, and similarly I will have a choke line over here. Got it? Okay. Now this would be my wellhead case, or this will be a cellar pit. Okay, this particular depth is cellar pit. This particular depth, or this particular height is my substructure height. Okay, that is the height from the drill floor, or the Kelly bushing height. Yeah, right from the Kelly bushing to the top of the wellhead. So that would be my substructure height or BOP stack height. And from the annular preventer, I will connect a bell nipple or a riser towards my drill floor, and from the drill floor I will have a flow line. Okay, again we know the journey. From the flow line it will go to the possum belly, shale shaker, then it goes to the drilling fluid control system. Okay, so the journey will be like this. So this is a simple schematic of a BOP configuration. Okay, all right. Now coming to diverters. Diverters are used in top hole drilling to divert the flow in case of shallow gas kick or a water kick. A very important term. It is used in top hole drilling only. Okay, and it is used to divert the flow in case of a shallow gas or a water kick. Okay, diverter is never used to create a back pressure on the wellbore, as compared to that of annular BOP, where we were able to give annular BOP or a pipe ram BOP or a blind or a shear BOP, we were able to give back pressure. But in my diverter case, I am never able to create any sort of a back pressure. That's a very important point you need to take into consideration. Diverters are simply low pressure annular preventers. These are annular preventers only, but it is low pressure annular preventer, and it cannot give a BOP. It cannot give a back pressure on the wellbore. Below the diverter is a drilling spool, mud cross with 2 sides outlets. The side outlets have valves connecting to the drilling spool to the diverter lines. The lines can be operated mechanically or hydraulically. Okay. Now, in case of a shallow kick, the first valve is open to divert the flow, and then the diverter is closed. This prevents any kind of back pressure on the wellbore. Okay. All right. Now you can see that this is a schematic of a diverter, and let's say this. Okay, my drill string was this. Let's say my drill string over here is like over here. Okay, from that BOP only I will have a drill string. Let this be my drill string. Okay, so let's say now I have to close the well. Okay, now any chance has occurred, any shallow gas kick has come, so I need to close the well. So what I do is that I activate this particular rubber element. Okay, I will activate this rubber element, and thus this rubber element will shut my wellbore. Will completely shut my wellbore. Okay. Now once I shut this wellbore, I don't have any access of flow line, so my drilling mud will not go to this flow line. Okay, because my annulus is closed. Instead of that, the diverter flow path will be, the mud will be flowing through this diverter flow path. Okay, so that's this point. That is the first, the valve is open to divert the flow. That means this particular, there will be a valve over here. We will open that particular valve so that I can divert my drilling mud through this diverter flow path, and then the diverter is closed. Okay, let's just the sequence is important. The sequence is, first I open this particular, I will bring this particular thing in lineup. I will open the diverter flow path valve, and then I will shut my then I will activate my diverter annular BOP. Okay, and then I can go for a well shut. Okay, that's how you go for a well shutting in diverter case. And again, a very crucial point is that in diverter is never used to give a back pressure on the wellbore. It's a very important point. Now coming to full opening safety valve. FOSP or full opening safety valve is installed on the drill pipe in case we get a kick. Okay, it is always kept ready on the rig floor in open condition. In case of kick, we stab the FOSP on the drill pipe in open condition so that the upward moving flow of the fluid through the drill pipe can pass through the valve and it does not create difficulty in making up the valve on drill pipe. Okay, always in open condition we will stab the FOSP onto my drill pipe. Once the valve is installed, we can use the Allen key to close the valve. Allen key is a tool which is like this. Almost this will be a L-shaped thing. Allen key will be something like this, L-shaped thing. Okay, so by using this Allen key, this is the Allen key. So using the Allen key, I can close my FOSP. Once the FOSP is closed, it stops the upward flow of fluid through the drill pipe. Okay, once it is completely closed by using Allen key, if I am closing my FOSP, then the upward flow of fluid through the drill pipe can be stopped. Now, in closed condition, FOSP does not allow us to pump fluid through it. Okay, it is very crucial point. Now, if one wants to pump some fluid into the drill string, an IBOP or a gray valve is used to install on the top of the FOSP. Let's say in some case, now I have to, once my well is shut and now I have to circulate out. Now I have to circulate my drill fluid through the drill string. Let's say I am talking about a driller's method of well killing. Okay, in driller's method, I was supposedly pumping my drill fluid through my drill string. Okay, now in that particular method, let's say on top of the drill string I had installed my FOSP. Okay, and as we all know, if I am using the Allen key, I will close the FOSP. Okay, once FOSP is closed, I cannot pump through it. So to avoid that, what we do is that we have a IBOP or a internal BOP or a gray valve. What we do is we install that particular valve on the top of FOSP. Okay, and once the FOSP is installed, once the gray valve is installed on the top of FOSP, now the FOSP can be opened and we can circulate to the drill string. Okay, let's look at IBOP or a gray valve. Gray valve is a NRV. It is a non-return valve. All right, only one directional flow is allowed. It is also always kept ready along the FOSP on the rig floor. It is kept ready on the rig floor in open condition. Once the IBOP is tapped, okay, over FOSP, the lock screw can be loosened and the release tool along the rod can be removed. IBOP gets closed when the force from inside the drill string acts upwards. Okay, the downward side, if any sort of fluid is coming, my IBOP will get closed. And IBOP gets open when the force is applied from the top in downward direction. Okay, IBOP will open only when I am applying the force from the top. Okay, at this time my IBOP will open and in this direction my IBOP will close. Okay, and again we don't want any sort of fluid coming out from this particular portion. This is a very important point. Okay, so IBOP will open only from when I am giving some force from the top direction, from the upward direction in the downward side. Got it? Okay. Now talking about float valve. Float valve is also a critical well control equipment. It is a non-return valve installed along with the bottom wall assembly with bit sub, float sub or stabilizers. Okay. If the flow acts from downward direction through the drill string, the flapper opens and the mud can pass through it. Okay. It is similar to a flapper like arrangement. Okay. This is a flapper like arrangement. I will be having this flapper. Let's say this is my flapper. And there will be some sort of a restriction over here. Okay, so let this be the bottom part, let this be a bottom wall assembly part. Okay, now this flapper will open. This is a flapper. Now this flapper, now whenever I am pumping fluid from above, at that time my fluid will go through this. Okay, at that time my flapper will go down. Okay, now let's say by case from the bottom part my fluid is coming up, at that time this flapper will get closed. Okay, because of this restriction my flapper will get closed. Got it? So that's what it has been written. If the flow acts from the downward direction to the drill string, the flapper opens and the mud can pass through it. If the flow acts in upward direction to the drill string, the flapper closes and restricts the flow in the upward direction. Got it? Okay. Now coming to choke manifold. Choke manifold is a set of valves. It is a simple set of valves. A Coflex hose connects the choke choke manifold to wellbore annulus through the choke line. When the BOP is closed, choke line valve can be opened and flow can be diverted to choke manifold. Okay, see, as this particular thing I think we have seen during my well killing session, we have seen this particular diagram. Okay, so this entire portion is my choke manifold, and this is my choke line. This is my choke line, and this is my kill line. Let this be the kill line, and this is my choke line. And from the choke line, it gets connected to the choke manifold. Now later we have an option to divert the flow to MGS or a mud gas separator or a shale shaker or a waste pit by adjusting the choke lineup. So you can see that there are two routes. I can either go for a manual choke or I can go for a remote choke. And let's say if I'm talking about remote choke, then I can have, if my fluid takes this journey, then from buffer tank it can go to a mud gas separator, or it can go to a waste pit, or it can go to a shale shaker. Alright, so that's what it has been written over here. The remote choke can be adjusted to control the flow when circulating out through the choke. Okay, there will be a remote control panel. There will be a remote control panel from where we can control the remote choke. Okay, we can control the opening and closing of remote choke by using this particular remote control panel. Now, closing the choke creates back pressure in the wellbore annulus, and opening the choke decreases the annular pressure. It's a very obvious point. All right. So this is what a choke manifold looks like in real field, and this is the schematic of a choke manifold. Now coming to choke line and kill line, let's discuss each one of them. Choke line connects the wellbore annulus to the choke manifold. Obvious. There are two valves connected to the choke line. One is manually operated and other is hydraulically operated. Both have the same purpose to restrict and control the fluid flow through the annulus when the BOP is closed. Again, I had discussed this same thing before. Let's say this is my drilling spool. Okay, at that time, let this be the manual valve, and let this be the HCR valve. Okay, it is always necessary to have a manual valve in front of the HCR valve. Okay, the reason is, let's say by any case my HCR valve get damaged or it requires any sort of repair. At that time, what to do is that I will close my manual valve and I will remove this HCR valve for repair work. Okay, so it's a very important point that my manual valve will always be in front of my HCR valve. Manual valve will always be in front of the HCR valve. Okay, this be the drilling spool, and my manual valve will always be in front of HCR valve. Very important concept. Now coming to kill line, let's talk about kill line. The kill line is also connected to the wellbore annulus. Again, this is the kill line and this is my choke line. The kill line connects the wellbore annulus to the standpipe manifold, which allows the pumping of drilling fluid from surface to the wellbore annulus. Now, kill line can be used when the BOP is closed and there is no string in the wellbore, or in case when the drill string is plugged and circulation cannot be made through the drill string. This particular case is my volumetric well control method. Okay, this is my volumetric well control. We have discussed in volumetric well control. That time we can go for kill line. Okay, now unlike the choke line, there are two valves connected to the kill line. Generally, both are manually operated. Both have the same purpose to restrict and control the fluid flow to the annulus when BOP is closed. Okay, now let's discuss trip tank. Now you can see this is the BOP, this is my BOP, this is my bell nipple, and this is my return line or my flow line. Okay, so from one point of my flow line, there will be line will be there, which will be connected to a trip tank. Okay, and from the trip tank there will be a pump which will be pumping my fill up mud through this fill up line. Okay, and it will again connect to the bell nipple. Got it? Okay, now this is a particular trip indicator readout. There will be a trip indicator on the drill floor which will indicate us what is the level of my trip tank. Okay, now let's see what is the trip tank is. Trip tank is a small metal tank with small capacity, about 20 to 40 barrels with 1 barrel divisions inside, and it is used to monitor the well. Now the trip tank system has the ability to continuously fill the well and take return back to the tank. With this ability, it will keep the hole full at all the times, and the volume changes either increasing or decreasing can tell the condition of the well. Okay, so this is the purpose of a trip tank. Okay, that means it has the ability to continuously fill the well. We have discussed in my session 1 about wet displacement, wet pull out or a dry pull out. Okay, we have discussed all these things. Okay, at that time we were calculating what will be my hydrostatic reduction when I pull out dry or when I pull out wet. Okay, so whatever corresponding hydrostatic loss has been experienced, I will try to fill the hole corresponding to that hydrostatic loss. Okay, let's talk about accumulator unit. It's a very very important unit, and it is a very important part of a well controlled equipment. Now, accumulator, or a commonly known as Kumi unit, is a unit used to hydraulically operate rams, hydraulically operate annular BOP, hydraulically operate my HCR valves and other hydraulic equipments. Very important portion. There are several high pressure cylinders that store gas in bladders and hydraulic fluid or water under pressure for hydraulic activated systems. Okay, so these are the bottles or the cylinders that will store high pressure gas. Okay, see the bottles for hydraulic pressure storage, pressure at 3000 psi, it is kept at 3000 psi. Now, the primary purpose of this unit is to supply hydraulic power to the BOP stack in order to either close or open the BOP stack for both normal operational as well as emergency condition. That means we will supply this hydraulic power at times of emergency situation or at times of testing. There will be pressure testing that we can carry out once a month, or as per the at different period of time we will carrying out this pressure testing. So at that time we will be using this particular accumulator unit. Now, it is stored hydraulic in the system can provide hydraulic power to close BOPs in the well controlled operation. Therefore, kick volume will be minimized. Again, this point. Now, pressure based on 3000 psi surface stack system that you should check on BOP remote control panel, and Kumi unit is listed as below. That means the manifold pressure. This is my manifold. Okay, this is my manifold. See in this diagram, this is my manifold. This small lines connecting, or this small tubing connecting to the BOPs. These are my manifold lines, and this manifold lines, it is necessary to have to be kept at 3000 to be kept at 1500 psi. Okay, this manifold lines has to be kept at 1500 psi. My accumulator pressure, that means this bottle will be charged at 3000 psi. It is a compulsion. Now in order to close the annular preventer, at that time I will give a 500 to 1500 psi. Okay, and for the rig air is maintained at 100 to 130 psi. Okay, and if I am like for annular, as we have mentioned, it will have to give 500 to 1500 psi pressure to close the annular BOP. And similarly, if I am going for any ram, like if I am going for a pipe ram or a variable bore ram or a blind shear ram, at that time my pressure would be around 3000 psi. Okay, got it. Now the four main components of Kumi unit are accumulators, pumping system, manifold system, and reservoir tank. All right, so let's see here. 4 units are accumulators. See, these are my accumulator system. This is my accumulator, where the bottles of high pressure bottles are there which stores high pressure gas. Pumping system. See, I have a pumping system here. I have 3 types of pumps. I have basically 2 types of pump, electrical pump and pneumatic pump, and I have 2 pneumatic pumps. Okay, one is in reserve. I have a manifold system. See, this tubing, whatever these small tubings are there, these are my manifold system. And finally, I have a reservoir tank. Got it? Okay, so this is all about accumulator unit. Now let's discuss some more part about accumulator unit. So this accumulator is at 3000 psi. Again, very important points. You need to remember these things. You have to remember these things. Volume of each bottle, okay, whatever storage we have, whatever bottle we have, it will have 10 gallon of storage capacity. Pre-charge pressure is 1000 psi. Very important point. Pre-charge pressure of accumulator unit should be 1000 psi. Minimum operating pressure is 1200 psi. There will be a 200 psi over pre-charge pressure. Okay, minimum, that means minimum operating pressure for conducting any sort of activity, we need to have 1200 psi. Usable fluid is 5 gallon. I will prove this point. And safety factor required is 50%. This safety factor may be different depending on each company's requirement. All right. Okay. Now let's discuss 2 very important points over here, which are: first, we need to determine hydraulic fluid required to increase pressure from pre-charge to minimum. Okay, we know my pre-charge pressure is 1000 psi and my minimum pressure is 1200 psi. Okay, so what we need to find out is that we need to find out the hydraulic fluid required, okay, to increase my pressure from pre-charge to minimum. Okay, pressure is 1000 psi, minimum operating is 1200 psi, volume of each bottle is 10 gallon. Okay, so what we will do is by using the Boyle's law, as we know P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2, we can calculate my volume. V2 will be 8.33 gallon. Okay, so 1000 into 10 into 1200 into volume of V2. Okay, so V2 will be 8.33 gallon. This means that the nitrogen will be compressed from 10 gallon to 8.33 gallon in order to reach minimum operating pressure. Okay, that means let's say I had complete 10 gallon of nitrogen over here. Okay, I had complete 10 gallon of nitrogen over here. Now to get, this is at 1000 psi. Okay, now to reach at 1200 psi, what I will do is that I will compress it to 8.33 psi, to 8.33 gallon, so that I can get my 1200 psi. Got it? And so this, again, the hydraulic fluid point is here. 1.7 gallon of hydraulic fluid is used for compressing this particular system to minimum system pressure. See, that means I have 8.33. I have 10 gallon for when I have 1000 psi, 8.33 for 1200 psi. That means 10 minus 8.33, that gives me 1.7 gallon. So 1.7 gallon of my hydraulic fluid is used up to get to reach till my minimum system pressure. Got it? Okay. Now let's talk about the second point, which is determine the hydraulic required in increasing pressure from pre-charge to operating pressure. As we know, my pre-charge pressure is 1000 psi and my operating pressure is 3000 psi. For that, now let's do the calculation. Again, same Boyle's law, P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2, 1000 into 10 into 3000 into V2. So my V2 turns out to be 33 gallon, 3.3 gallon, sorry. V2 turns out to be 3.3 gallon. Now the nitrogen will be compressed from 10 gallon to 3.3 gallon. That means 6.7 gallon of my hydraulic fluid is used up for compressing till the operating pressure. Got it? So let's discuss it in this diagram also. So this was 10 gallon initially, and initially it was at 1000 psi. Now I am told to, when I am compressed till my operating pressure, that is 3000 psi, what would be my, so this thing would be, this particular thing would be around 6.7 gallon. Okay, that means I need to compress it till 6.7 gallon. Okay, that means from 10 gallon I will reach till 3.3 gallon, so that I get my desired operating pressure. Okay, now so 6.7 gallon is I got. So the 6.7 gallon is the hydraulic fluid is used to for compressing till operating pressure. Got it? Okay. Now another important point over here is my usable volume. Okay, my usable volume over here is 6.7 minus 1.7. okay, as we can see that my 6.7 is the hydraulic fluid when I used it from 1000 to 3000. okay, minus 8.33, again minus this 1.7. okay, this 1.7 we have to minus it because we know that my minimum operating pressure is always 12,000. okay, that means I have already lost my 1.7 gallon. So 6.7 minus 1.7 gives me 5 gallons. So 5 gallon is my answer. Again, I just proved this particular point, which is my usable fluid per gallon is 5 gallon. I just proved this particular point. Okay, all right. Again, you guys have to remember this. It will be better that you remember this. That is my minimum operating pressure is 1200 psi. My pre-charge pressure is 1000 psi, and usable fluid per gallon is 5 gallon. All right, and accumulator pressure is 3000 psi. My volume per each bottle is 10 gallon. Okay, you need to remember these things. Now let's discuss this part. So these are four-way valve positions. Okay, so I have discussed this particular part of four-way valve position in open position, in closed position, and in block position. So let's discuss each and every one of them. Okay, now let's say now in this particular case I want to open my BOP. Okay, so when the valve is turned into the open position, it directs the hydraulic pressure from the main manifold into the BOP. Into BOP opening port. So this is from the manifold. See, you can see from the manifold, my fluid has been diverted to the BOP opening part. This is my BOP opening port. This is my BOP opening port, and from the manifold, it is being transferred to this BOP opening port. Therefore, the BOP is in open position. The hydraulic fluid in the ram closing chamber will return back to the reservoir tank. So you can see that this is my ram closing chamber. This is my ram closing chamber. From the ram closing chamber, see, my fluid is now entering into my reservoir tank. Okay, so this figure illustrates how the hydraulic pressure in the lineup, how the hydraulic pressure is lined up to open the BOP. Got it? Now let's discuss about this four-way valve in closed position. The valve is turned into four-way into the closed position. Again, look at this. This is my open position. This will be my closed position. Now, when it is in closed position, let's see. It means that the hydraulic pressure from the manifold it is transferred to the BOP closed port. See, from the manifold, my hydraulic fluid is now transferred to the ram closing part. See, from the ram, it is transferred to the BOP closing part, and the hydraulic from the opening chamber will return back to the reservoir tank. See, this is my opening chamber. See, this is my opening chamber, and from the opening chamber, whatever hydraulic is there, it will now go to the reservoir tank. Got it? Figure shows how the hydraulic pressure is lined up to close the BOP. So the primary difference between both is when I want to close the BOP, at that time my accumulator unit, the hydraulic will flow to this BOP closing port. Okay, and when I have to open the BOP, at that time my hydraulic fluid from the accumulator unit will go to the opening port of my BOP. Got it? Okay, so this is how four-way valve in open position and closed position works. Now let's discuss how this four-way valve in block position works. This is my block position or the neutral position. When the four-way valve is left in the block position or the central position, there is no hydraulic pressure going into either the closed port or the open port. So you might not know exactly the position of the rams with the block position. In normal drilling operation, you should never leave this thing in block position. However, the valves can be left in the block position during rig movement or repairing operation. Okay, so this is in block position. Now let's discuss mud gas separator. This mud gas separator is used in well control situation when I have to circulate out my mud, or when I have to circulate out the kick through the choke. At that time, this mud gas separator will come into play. The flow from the choke manifold is diverted to the mud gas separator. See, the flow has been diverted from the choke manifold. It is now diverted to mud gas separator. Throughout the cylindrical structure of MGS, it is a baffle plate arrangement. Very important point. It is a baffle plate arrangement. The contaminated mud falls through the baffle plate arrangement. So you can see that these are the baffle plate arrangement. See, these are the baffle plate, and you can see very clearly that my drilling mud is coming from here. Okay, it will fall on the baffle plates. Okay, as we all know that if let's say my well stream or a fluid stream is having high amount of gas. Okay, now as we all know, if my fluid stream has high amount of gas, and that time if I am allowing the fluid to travel a long distance, okay, at that time my more amount of gas will be liberated out from the system. Or else, let's say if I am that particular well stream or fluid stream, if I am giving more amount of momentum or more amount of disturbances, then that will also lead to the suppression of gas. Okay, so in this case what I am giving is that I am giving more time for the fluid to travel through these baffles. Plus my baffles also create some sort of momentum disturbances, and because of both the reason, that is because of momentum disturbances and because of larger traveling time, my gas, whatever gas is there in my drilling fluid, it will be vented out from this vent line. Got it? Okay. Now, so this is the mud leg of my mud gas separator, and from this my mud will go to the mud return line. Got it? Okay. Now, this is a numerical that can be asked in GATE. So this is a very simple numerical. So you have to find out how much pressure will cause blow through. Blow through means my gas is not able to vent out. Okay, when my gas is not able to escape from the mud gas separator, so that particular point is blow through. So the blow through case will only occur after some definite pressure. Okay, after if you are pumping the well fluid at higher pressure, at that time you will experience blow through. Okay, now this is a given data given. This is the given data. Mud weight is given as 9.5 ppg and mud leg height is given as 20 feet. This particular mud leg height is given as 20 feet. Now you have to calculate what would be my blow through pressure. After what pressure my blow through will occur, we have to calculate that particular thing. So to calculate that, my pressure is equal to 0.052 in mud weight into mud leg height, 0.052 into 9.5 into 20, 9.9 psi. Very simple case. So if my pressure of the inlet stream is greater than 9.9 psi, then it is a definite case of a blow through. Got it? Okay. Now let's discuss mud flow sensors. The mud flow sensors or a flow line sensor provides the driller with a real-time information on the flow out rate. It is installed on the flow line. You can see that this is my flow line. You can see this is my flow line. This is my bell nipple, and this is my drill pipe inside my well bore. And there is sensor. See, there is a sensor, parallel type sensor over here. Okay, so this sensor will give me what is my flow rate of drill mud. Now it provides the driller. It provides driller his first indication of kick or increase in flow rate. Okay, again we all have seen that one of the positive sign of kick is increase in return flow. Okay, so driller will identify whether that it is a positive sign of kick, and how does he identify? How does he get the recording? He will get the recording because of a flow sensor kept on the flow line. Okay, now the reading of mud flow sensor is displayed on the driller's console in the form of percent flow out. Again, there is a driller's console kept at the drill floor. So there will be recording of my mud flow over there. Now this is a simple schematic of a remote choke panel. So this is a remote choke panel, and this is a choke controller or remote choke controller, where you can, by using this particular knob or a joystick, you can control the opening and closing of my remote choke. Okay, now at this point my SIDPP will be measured, and this point my SICP will be measured. Okay, all right. Now this SIDPP, the sensor would be at this point. Sensor would be at this point. That is in the standpipe manifold. I will have the sensor, and for the SICP reading, my sensor would be fitted at this choke manifold point. Okay, I will have a sensor at my choke manifold point for SICP and a sensor at the standpipe manifold for my recording of SIDPP. Okay, so that's the main purpose of putting this particular slide in this picture. So let's discuss testing of BOP. Now there are two types of tests to be conducted on BOP: function test and pressure test. Function test is conducted to check the closing time of each BOP, maybe an annular or a pipe ram, annular or a it may be a annular or a pipe ram BOP. Okay, and this is used to check the closing time of each BOP, which should be within the prescribed limit, and to check the condition of the accumulators, whether having proper pre-charge pressure or not. So that's the function test for you. Now pressure test is conducted to check the integrity of all the joints of the BOP stack, or to check the integrity of all the seals, and to check the integrity of all the walls in my BOP stack. Okay, a cup tester or a test plug is used. Cup tester or a test plug is used. We will see what is a cup tester and a test plug in coming up slides. Now let's discuss function test. Again, as per API specification, for testing of a surface BOP stack, my closing time for all ram preventer should not exceed 30 seconds. Very important point. For the closing time of all the ram preventers should not exceed 30 seconds. closing time for an annular preventer smaller than 18 and 3/4 inch should not exceed 30 seconds, and closing time for annular preventer of 18 3/4 or larger should not exceed 45 seconds. Okay, very important point. Smaller than 18 3/4, it should not exceed 30 seconds, and larger than 18 3/4, if I am having any sort of annular BOP, it should not exceed 45 seconds. So you have to remember this particular thing. It is very important, and you have to remember these values. Coming to pressure test, again as per API specification recommended practice 59, my pressure test is conducted to check the integrity of all the joints of BOP. Cup tester or a test plug is used to conduct the pressure test. Clean water is used as a test fluid. My lower pressure test should be made at 200 to 300 psi, and the pressure should be kept hold for minimum 5 minutes. Okay, so I will be the lower pressure test means I will be pumping my clear water at 200 to 300 psi. Okay, and at least for 5 minutes I will conduct this particular test. So this is lower pressure test. For a higher pressure test, if you are going, then it should be made at rated working pressure. Okay, RWP or rated working pressure. If I are going for a higher pressure test, that means we should test it till my rated working pressure of ram preventers or the wellhead, whichever is lower. Okay, now annular BOP should be pressure tested at test pressures of ram or 70% of rated working pressure of annular preventer. Okay, let's say my annular preventer has 1500 psi of my rated working pressure. That means 70% of my rated working pressure, I will pressurize my fluid system to test my annular BOP. Got it? Okay. Again, these are all very important points. You need to remember these points. So this is a cup tester and this is a test plug. Okay. So you can see that if I am going for a test plug, what I will do is I will simply place my test plug above my BOP and I will pressurize the system to check whether I will pressurize the system to check the integrity of my BOP. And if I am going for this cup tester, so you see cup tester, you will have a test pipe. Okay, and this is the cup over here, this is the cup, and by using this particular component we can go for a cup testing method. Again, this is not that much critical point. The testing part is not critical point. Just you have to remember that there is a component called a cup tester or a test plug whenever we go for pressure testing of BOP. Okay, all right. So that's all for today.